Hey guys, I just wanted to do a video to share some things with you guys that I feel like since I got up this morning, um, I have just had so many thoughts and so many type of downloads and all of that that I was like, okay, I've got to do a video on this. Oh, that's like okay. I don't know if that's better. The lighting just seems weird to me. But yeah, I've been getting so many thoughts and downloads that I just wanted to share some of them. Um, because I know there's a lot of people that feel like they're stuck right now, or they're kind of in an in-between phase, but between one phase and another, or one world and another. And it's like they can't go back to the old world, but yeah, they can't really go forward to the next. And they're kind of stuck in between. Some people even really feeling like they, have some lesson that they've really got to learn or figure out. And I know I've been really kind of stuck on that, like what's going to move me forward. What is the lesson? What am I trying to, what am I missing? And I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I would recommend sticking through it because it's going to be a pretty good video, pretty informative, and I just think it'll be worth it for you with the stuff that I'm going to say if you're feeling that way in your life. I know I had a dream not long ago that, I can't remember if I said this in one of my videos or not, but that I was in one room or house, and I think there was another room or house, but you couldn't really see it. And if you went towards the back of the room or house, it was like there was this thing that looked like if you were to go from an airport to the plane, that thing that connects, what that looks like. Or like in sci-fi movies where they're like, say they're discovering like some alien thing or something like that, and they go from the building to the thing they're studying, and there's a walkway, not in an isolation way, but just a walkway. It's like there was one of those that I knew connected to the other room or the other house. And I kept trying to walk on it and go that way. And I kept hearing, no, it's not ready yet. Be careful. It's like shaky ground. It's still being built. So what was being built was the connection between the two. And me, who I'm, stubborn, or I push the limit sometimes, or I'm like, but I wanna, type thing. I kept going on it, and I was like, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna walk really slow, and was really, really lightly. And I would keep doing that. I'd go do it. I'd test the ground, the thing, and then I'd walk away. I'd go do something else. And then I'd come back, test it some more. And every time I'd go and test it, I'd keep hearing the same thing. It's not ready yet. It's being built. Like, be careful. Technically, you should get off of it. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm being really careful. Don't worry. So it's like I keep trying it out to see if it's ready yet. So partially it's, we're being asked to be held back from this phase right now because things are still in order that are being prepared, whether they're in us or whether they're in our external world. That is, ready. So when it opens up, you can just go and do the things you're supposed to do. It's kind of like you don't want to go to a theme park, to ride new rides, and the rides aren't built yet. You know what I mean? You want it to be done. Otherwise, you're going to be like, well, this is a jib. Or what am I supposed to do here then? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't do what I'm supposed to do here because none of it's ready. So it's kind of like that. So have patience. Because that's what I was thinking when I woke up. I was like, well, that's weird. Why didn't I ever go to the other side? And, obviously it's because I couldn't get there. It was still being built. And I realized later that I think for me, one of the things that it was waiting on also to be built or to be ready, was that I think for me personally, I can't speak for everyone else, it's getting me to a point, not only am I learning other things about myself and skills and all of that, excuse me, and preparing and everything, but I think it's making me get to such a level of frustration and excitement that like fear doesn't even hold me back. Like I just want it to be done. But so I do feel like, you know, we're going through transitions, especially Tauruses, but really anybody. I would say Tauruses, Scorpios, Leo and Aquariuses, especially Taurus, and Scorpio and Taurus I think would be the most. Taurus would be the most, but the Taurus Scorpio axis, just because of where all the planetary alignments are, and Uranus and Scorpio being the opposing sign in energy, and then, you know, you've got the other two squaring it, Leo and Aquarius. So they're going to get some challenges from it too, without a doubt, because of it squaring it, which is like challenges. But just some things I've been figuring out. So I'm gonna go into all that. But first things first, I just want to say thank you to all you guys for all of your support, whether it's through comments, donations, allowing me to work with you guys, the private services. It really means a lot to me. Like I really love working with you guys, and I love being able to help and share what I've learned with you guys and dig into your stuff and help you. And then also through helping you, that also helps me even more. And it really just like warms my heart a lot. So I really thank you guys for participating on this with me within my journey. Sharing, commenting, liking, subscribing, like donations for the energy exchange, and because, you know, something helped you that I said, or, you know, services, like it just all really means a lot to me. Also sharing your vulnerabilities, like trusting me with that, it means a lot to me. Also dealing with me sometimes too. You know, I don't regret what I say. Sometimes my deliverance I do. But especially lately with the energies coming on, like it still has me flustered, but it really did, just because you know, you've got the Taurus full moon energy, Scorpio. I could feel that energy coming in, especially starting the day before it actually went into Scorpio season. Which has already started to teach me a lot about the Scorpio energy. I find it's actually very similar to Virgo. Not exactly, but similar. My female stuff, cycles and all that, always correlate to the moons. I mean, they're almost always right on it, to either the new moon or the full moon. And, you know, I'm working through my blocks and my ways and my growths too. So thank you so much for understanding through that. I really think that these Taurus and Scorpio energies are really going to be showing us and teaching us a lot. And it's kind of that balance between valuing and finding what we are and who we want. Sorry. I was like backwards. Who we are and what we want. Yeah, or maybe I said it the right way. I don't know the first time, but and with Scorpio, with what to release and the groundedness and or the rebirth of it. You know, this is very much going to be about feminine and male energies receptive yet releasing. Taurus being the earth and Scorpio being the water, and why they're so opposite yet complementary. I feel a lot, what I've started to feel with the Scorpio energy is just this build up, because you got to think, like, Taurus and Scorpio are the two most intense signs of the zodiac. I know Scorpio is more known for that just because the way they show it or exhibit it is a little bit more on the display side of things. Taurus, they ground it differently. So it's there, but they ground it differently, and it's, I don't want to say it's more beneath the surface, like it is, but it isn't. But the reason that those energies between water and earth are so complementary to each other is water likes to be held, and in some ways something, supporting it, yet giving it its freedom to flow at the same time. And it's exactly like if you think of the idea of like the ocean as it's going on to the earth's shore. It's the earth holds, I know it's gravity and all that, but let's not go there. The earth holds and supports the water. The water also feeds the earth, so they do go back and forth, but the earth holds the water, it supports the water, yet it also moves to the water. Even as the waves come crashing on the shore, it pushes the sand, and then it pulls it back and then pushes it, and the earth is enough of a support for the water to go up, but yet the earth does also move for the water. So they're very supporting, because the water on its own, the emotion on its own would go chaotic in a way. It would go, water, although likes to be free, it likes to hold some form, but with freedom. The earth gives it that form and that foundation and that stability, that holding, but it also allows for its freedom. And the earth likes its stability, yet also the water brings in the movement. It allows it not, did you get what I'm saying? Like the water keeps the earth from staying too rigid. It allows, because it brings it and takes it back and feeds it. And then the water from going just anywhere it needs to and not having any balance or stability, the earth creates the form for the water, but yet also at the same time allows it freedom to move. The earth, because the water makes it more flexible, it gives and it takes for the water. Since we're in Scorpio season, they're a water sign. For that water, especially the depth of the water and the earth, it holds it, and it kind of creates this nice balance where one keeps the other from being too rigid, and the other one gives the other some type of form. Even though Scorpios are very much about, I could do it myself, and an independent type of sign, and they're very much kind of like Aquarius with that. They're the two signs that sometimes Leo can be seen that way, but where they have kind of like this God complex. And I think that's just because when they're younger, they're so much stronger and independent on their own, and they watch and they see what people do, and they're smart, they develop their stuff, but they also develop in their own way, their own rigidities, in the way of, I don't need help, I can do it all myself. But In all actuality, they do. At some point that comes, crashing down. But it is very much a complementary support system. It's the same with air and fire. The fire is the physical form and showing and breathing life to that air, but yet the air is feeding the fire. It goes back and forth. The Scorpio energy to me, though, feels like this, almost like waves and crashing in of building and building and building. And I almost like see this dam, and that's why I say they like to be able to move and be supported, but not restricted. And I feel a lot of times this thing in Scorpios, especially since they're a very magnetic energy, a lot of people, and because they're mysterious, a lot of people want to capture that and hold it and harness it and possess it. It's almost like taking, and I know they're not lions, but it's almost like taking the beauty and the majestic stuff of a lion, and most of its beauty is in its freedom and not being understood. And then by trying to capture it and understand it, they release its beauty. And to some degree, that's an illusion. And to some degree, I think that's the way Scorpios feel too. Like if they're like, if I'm captured and my secrets are found out, I will no longer be able to have, this capturing magnetic illusion over people, or they won't want to keep me, or I won't have control over anymore, or whatever. But either way, they get this build up and this build up and this build up, and I see after a while this dam just breaking. Like that's the way I was feeling. Like it was building and it was building and it was building, and I could just see this dam breaking in my mind, and in a lot of ways it being such a sweet release. Just that release of the buildup and the pressure and the pain and the caring, and just starting new. And that's, I think, the death and the rebirth process for them. So in a lot of ways I can understand why they like that, or why that sort of becomes addicting, and it actually almost is like, an addiction, where it's that very big low and high, and the pain to them is associated to good things coming, whereas Taurus has more of that. Their intensity is just a more steadiness over time. Scorpios is the build up and the release, build up and release, and that's why a lot of times they can have very, reactions, or release, or emotional release, or anger, or frustration, or just poof, that's how a lot of times they show their intensity, besides sexually, but just in that the emotion build, poof, build, poof, Taurus, their intensity is a little bit more grounded and filtered and moderated, because it's more of a grounding sign. So because of that, they don't show as much of it unless you really back them in the corner. Then you'll see their horns come out. Tauruses don't like to bring their horns out. Scorpios do. They like to bring their tail out. Not always, but a lot more. They got that power and control thing. Tauruses is more control. But a Taurus's intensity brings them more over time. And it's more physically felt within their body, within their physical being. But it's more stable, and that intensity is more carried over time. Now, there are good things and bad to that. Tauruses, because of that, can tend to hang into things too long and be too patient and be too stable and not either know when to let that stability go and rock the boat and learn and change something, try something new, or also stay in situations for too long of a time that they really shouldn't be in. Scorpios, it's a great thing for them because they do have that death and rebirth process, but it can also be bad because they don't learn over time how to emotionally balance that and keep things, not everything's meant to go and be freed. Also, they tend to end up healing things until they learn to evolve these lessons. They tend to teach lessons more through chaos and pain than through healing. Eventually, they do it through healing. I mean, they're both healing, but you get what I'm saying. But they both have their negative and positive sides to those attributes. But all of this is about doing something new and pushing yourself and challenging yourself so that you can see the lesson. Because where a lot of us, including me, was getting stuck is that we knew there was a lesson. We knew we really had to figure something out. And we don't want to repeat it again. We're ready to level up, if you will. Excuse me. The problem with that is most of the time, especially when you get too in your head about it, you tend to bunker down and stay put, or go so much into your worries and fears that you end up reverting back to old patterns. But you tend to stay put, and then when you stay put like that, you get even more in this vicious cycle that ends up putting you right back in what you were trying to get out of. It's almost like what you were trying to not do, you end up doing because you ended up staying put, trying to figure it out. Before you know it, you're like, damn, how the hell did I go back to the beginning of that lesson again? What just happened? Like, I saw that I was supposed to learn a lesson and I just stopped and kind of just, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? And before you know it, it's like you're there again on the cycle again, going. It's like this, rotator bell? I don't know. The little thing that goes like this. But listen, guys, I just have to say, I'm known for making up words sometimes. So if I do, please forgive me. It happens. And I either don't even know what it really is, or I think I do, or it's just something that I've always seen and been told about people who know me. I am notorious for making up words. So heads up on that. But I realized that one of the best ways to actually see the lesson, which, like, if you're playing a video game, obviously you end up leveling up because you do something you didn't do all the other times, even if it's a minor tweak or something highly significant. I talked about this a lot in the Capricorn, I think, Soul Journey video, but for October. But it's about doing something you didn't do before. And sometimes you see the lesson beforehand, but sometimes you don't. When you get those really deep, you're just too close to it, like lessons, if you find that you're sitting there for too long thinking about it, you've got to move. You got to move forward anyways. You can't just buckle down and be like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out so I don't make this mistake again, because then your fear is literally going to put you on the path that you're going to end up on that lesson, that merry-go-round all over again. And halfway through, you're going to realize, holy crap, somewhere along the way, I got on the merry-go-round and I thought I was just sitting there learning the lesson again. It's weird. It happens. I hope you know what I'm talking about, because it's weird how that happens. Like, you'll see one thing and before you know it, you're like, oh crap, oh my God. Somewhere I went and got back on the friggin' merry-go-round. But it's about doing something new, because have you ever had those times where you're doing something else or something comes and it made you do something and you might get mad, but you're like, oh, and you're going and doing something else. And what you were looking for came to you. For one, when you stop focusing on it, it comes to you. But then also when you experience other things and you get out of that blocked energy, it allows energy to then move, which means then it's going to start to come and you're going to figure it out, or it's going to bring up some type of block and you're going to work through it and see it and figure it out. Or it's going to bring up a good emotion or something good and you're going to be like, wow, you know, you didn't have it to compare it to the other thing. So for one, you're keeping energy blocked, that energy can't go. For two, you're not going to be able to see your blocks if you don't push yourself and do uncomfortable things. And I don't mean sabotaging bad things, you know what I mean? Like, don't go run naked in a lightning storm or something. I don't know, but, or you can, whatever, but do it. You get what I'm saying, in a healthy way, but about pushing yourself, because those type of things, although yes, uncomfortable, the reason they're uncomfortable is because blocks come up. So even if you can't logically figure out that lesson, your block coming up is going to help you figure out the lesson. It's also going to remove that stagnant, oppressing energy. On top of that, if something good comes from it, or even bad, whatever, it gives you a second situation or thing to look at that you can then compare to the original and then analyze and deduce, you know, what do I like? What don't I like? What did this show me? What did this show me? Did this help or hinder me? Did this help or hinder me? How did they compare? How did these make me feel? What was different? So then it teaches you more how to listen to yourself and how to navigate. I'm not going to go into it deep in this one, but I'm going to do a video about intuition versus emotions versus patterns and like addictions, codependencies, and all that. But being able to see the difference, and that's how you see it, is by learning how they feel, how they present, what they, you know, what happens during it. And sometimes the lesson is just doing something different and showing the universe, like, I may not know exactly what to do yet, but I'm just going to trust you that I'm going to figure it out when I need to. And I'm just going to move forward and do something new now. And you ended up figuring it out. In any of the ways that I just described, whether it's just you not focusing on anymore, whether it's a contrasting situation that you can then explain, you know, analyze, compare the two, whether it's a block coming up you've got to work through, whether it's just energy moving and boop, there's your thought, whatever. It's by pushing yourself to do something new. So don't become so fearsome or fearful that you're like, oh God, I've got to learn something new. And then you bunker down in fear. Now, I'm not saying not self-reflect, but if you find yourself sitting there so long to where that energy is not becoming lighter and clearer and moving, but it's actually becoming more painful, heavier, more resistant, and you're feeling more and more stuck, then move. Is there a possibility that'll work? Yes, because then you would be going along kind of like on the Scorpio energy where it builds, and poof, you know? Which is possible. It's possible that can help you. It's also possible that you still may not get your lesson and you just, you know, kind of crumble and that releases and then you've got to do it again because you didn't get the lesson. So in my opinion, you're actually less likely to get your lesson that way or get less lessons. Also, another thing is too, is I feel like that way, because it's a little bit more chaotic of a way. And that's one thing about Scorpios is a lot of times, especially until they evolve, they usually have a little bit more of chaotic lives or circumstances just because of, you know, the intensity and the emotion and the build and the, you know, they're just more emotionally turbulent, you know? I mean, they're like your murky waters run deep and they're your most intense sign. There's no way that they're going to be like a lily floating in the air just in the beauty sunshine. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So, and when that happens, it's going to be a little bit more chaotic, which means you're going to create a little bit more karma that you've got to work through. Which means it could either block you and then you don't learn a lesson, or you learn a little lesson, or maybe you learn a lot of lessons, but you got to go through a lot of pain to do that. So that's up to you. But my way that like I really thought of, and I have done it both as well, is trying something new and trusting in that being okay with not knowing sometimes, and for a Taurus and Scorpio, that's very hard. And knowing that your lesson will come, and also listen to your intuition to know the difference between the two. But I look at it kind of as being in that kind of Scorpio way. And I have to say that's not even a Scorpio way. That's actually a Taurus way too. At least as they're not as evolved, because what that is resistance. If you're building and building and building and building till a dam breaks, I mean, think about it. What breaks the dam? Resistance. It's a level of pressure that builds and builds and builds because of a resisting wall, and then it breaks. So Tauruses, they actually do the same thing too. They're actually getting a lot of those same lessons. So I don't even want to say that's just a Scorpio way. It's just Scorpios do it so much more intensely to where it's actually seen as the death and rebirth. But Taurus and Scorpio are both about death and rebirth. They're both about life and death. But Taurus especially is, just because it comes more in the springtime and it's a lighter energy. So Taurus is very much about birth and creation. Scorpio is very much about death and ending of cycles. But the thing is, there's no way, that's why they both actually represent both, is because there's no way that you could have birth and not have death right with it, just like there's no way you can't have death and birth. So they actually both signify death and birth. I hope you get what I'm saying. But just move forward and keep going. Even if you don't know what it is, even if you don't know what's going on, but my thing in saying that is, don't do what you've always been doing. Do something different. Work through the uncomfortability of that to see the old lesson when you get in the new area. It can happen that way too. But by you showing the universe or God or whatever that you're doing something different, says, I may not see exactly the lesson right now, but I know there is one. And I know that I need to do something different than what I've been doing. And I don't want to be stuck. If you've gone past a self-reflective time, but yet you're still not seeing that lesson, then don't stay stuck. And don't go hop on the old gravy train that you were on before just to learn the lesson again. Do something new. And tell them and say, I want to level up. Whether it's just inside you or not. I want to go to that new level. I want to go to new lessons. I want to go to new blessings. I want to go to new, what was the other thing? I don't know. New lessons, new blessings, new gifts, just new things, a new level. And say, I don't know it yet, but I have faith and I know you're going to show me. And I know I'm doing something that is holding me back. It's not for my highest good. It's holding me back. And I don't know what it is yet, but I don't want to be stuck. And I'm going to move forward and have faith that you're going to show me. It's kind of like one of those. And, that's really hard for a lot of people because, they've got to know and all that. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm sorry. This is all weird and it's bothering me. But they've got to know, and no, like just move, and be okay if things are wrong. Be okay if you learn lessons, because it's still going to get you where you need to go. How do you know that those lessons that are supposed to come up from you moving forward and not knowing are not going to be the things that come up that show you what you're supposed to know that you couldn't figure out but you couldn't figure them out because you didn't even know about them. You didn't even know to compare them to anything because the situation didn't present itself in order to show you to compare things with. Do you get what I'm saying? So you've got to move forward and do other things, not only to see about yourself, but in your environment. Opposite energies are great to work with and look with, like look in and do that work to show the other parts of yourself, but they're not good to just sit in. Like for me with a Scorpio energy, it would be great. It would show me a lot of things. Their energy will show me a lot about my shadow side and all of that. And it is a very balancing energy, but for one, you don't always want to just stay there. And also, like if it's a person, I mean, an opposite type of energy would be good if they're both on the same page of learning and evolving and growing and working together. Scorpio, in my opinion, is a very competitive sign. It is also a very fear-based mentality sign. So is Taurus. So Taurus isn't as competitive. They are a little. I've had a lot of that coming up lately, even in the stuff I'm learning or comparing to other people I'm working with, and really having to look at myself and my own gifts and my own abilities and looking at mine and am I enough? Are mine enough? Is it really this? Is it really that? Blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, guys. And I really had to look at a lot of that within myself. But they're both, especially a Scorpio, is very much a competitive sign. And that type of energy, I love Scorpio energy. But if it's not in an evolved or a balanced way, it's just chaotic, or it can be destructive, or it can only be handled in short spurts. And yes, an earth sign can ground that. But then you have to ask yourself, is that what you want? And for me as an earth sign, I would be willing to do that. But I would need that person to be willing and working with me as well. You can't let your stuff and not be stubborn go if somebody else is not willing to, or they're not willing to work with you. And it's the same with the energy. If that energy, if you haven't learned to balance it, or that energy hasn't learned to balance with you, then it may be good in short spurts, but you don't want to just stay in that energy. Your opposite energy is meant to evolve you, but not stay in that energy. You don't want to be all Taurus either. You don't want to be all Scorpio. You want to be right in that middle. You know what I mean? I hope you get what I'm saying by all that. If you don't, I'm sorry. Because if not, it's going to be limiting. It's not going to grow you. It's going to limit you. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is knowing where you're sitting in these energies and knowing the difference, because you're going to need to be able to go back and forth. You're going to need to be able to be flexible, and knowing when to go into something and see that it's actually evolving and growing you, and then also knowing when to pop out and either retreat or go into another energy because, oh, I'm not growing anymore. It's actually restricting me. And that's another reason too why it's nice to retreat and go in your own energy sometimes, because you don't want to get in a cycle and not see it. You don't want to get sucked into things that are going to start to block or hinder you. You want to get in your own energy to reflect. That's also where a lot of times you hear your intuition. That's why sometimes, and people are like, oh, stuff always happens to me. Maybe you're not listening. Because sometimes people also get illnesses, not only because blocks are physically manifesting in their body, but sometimes people get short-term illnesses or injuries or whatever because it's the universe's way, or your higher self's way, of slowing you down and making it to where you have to sit there and actually reflect and think. because you were so busy and so going that you weren't taking the time to stop and listen to yourself. And if you're not taking the time to do that, the universe is going to try to find ways to help and do that for you. I'm also going to do a video more on this too, but basically being able to look past your mind, because your mind is technically a gateway between your emotions and your intuition or your higher self. It's also a gateway between your conscious and your subconscious. So your mind is that filter or that block to work through. And in some ways that's good because it helps process those things. But in a lot of ways, your mind works against you. And you have to have those ways that you develop about yourself to see what is affecting your mind. And how to work around your mind. Because even though it's your mind between your conscious and your subconscious and, you know, your ego and your higher self and all that, they just like your mind, body, and soul all play and plug into each other, I feel like they also play and plug into each other. And I know that's kind of complicated in a way, but you need to be able to see that and how they all play. It's like literally a chess game and seeing how all the pawns play together and what moves they make and why. What is the strategy? How does one affect this? Which one has more power than the other? What way can I go on that board to go around this energy that is going to do this, that I don't really want to do that? I mean, it's good for sometimes in some things, but not right now. That's not what I'm trying to do. And you learn to make those moves to bypass that so that that ponder energy doesn't take you out, because it's not what you're trying to do. It's being able to pull yourself above your mind, above your ego, above your subconscious, to be able to pull yourself out of that gateway that is between the two. You have to be able to see it and know how to work around it. You know, you don't want to push it out. It's there for a reason. It does benefit you, but there are times you're going to need to learn how to go around that and see how, when you need it because of when it benefits you, but when to strategize and make a play around it, because you know in that moment it's either going to hinder you, block you, or make things harder for you. I've done that before, and I you know, at first I think it gets easier, but I know it was pissed at me. I mean, it was pissed for like a whole day. I was like, you know, I can feel it. If it could have been, I don't know, just having me in a torture device with my arms being pulled in every direction and just, you know, like it would have been doing that. That's what it was doing to me. It was so mad that I did it and bypassed it. But I'm glad I did, you know, and it's making little things like that. And over time, that becomes easier. And over time, that lessens the veil between your conscious, subconscious. It softens your ego to where your ego can become a little bit more flexible too, because it's not so fearful and rigid. But either way, I'm going to do another video going more on that, but just being able to see that veil and that divider between the two worlds, the two dimensions, the two areas and places, and being able to see all that and be literally a higher conscious being and be able to see, you know, what's up there, what's in here, what's in the light, what's in the dark. And then also just seeing, what does your mind do? What is its anatomy? What is it made up of? What is it supposed to do? It's meant to protect you. But it depends on how you look at what you're being protected from. And if your mind is remembering certain things that it taught you to shut down because that protected you when you were younger, and now you're in a part in your life where you're not subjected to other people or other things, or you're trying to expand and grow and bring abundance, then that mentality of protection equals fear, which results in shutting down, is not going to give you what you want. And it's also not a vibration that manifests abundance. So you've really got to look into those things. And if you can't figure out exactly what it is, and you've tried to do the time reflecting, you move forward and have faith, but doing something differently. I don't mean a situation of you're constantly chasing somebody and that's not bringing you good things, and so you're going to let go of that person and start chasing somebody else. I don't mean like that by trying something new. I mean literally by doing something opposite or different than what you've been doing. So if you're constantly running to outside situations or people, or trying to look to external things or distracting yourself, then you need to pull back and be within your own space and not distract yourself and feel those feelings and observe what is happening or coming up. If you're not used to working or expanding or putting yourself out there in some ways, then work and expand and put yourself out there in some ways. And sometimes work can be done before you get to that level, but sometimes you literally just do it. You know, courage is not having an absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of fear. So don't allow your fears to hold you back and block you. Move forward anyways. Because say you do that and you're like, well, I'm scared I'm going to miss out. What if you've been waiting on something? What if you've been trying at something? And you're just, for one, it probably hasn't been working anyways if you really look at it. But for two, you're like, but if I just keep trying, it might. If I stop, what if it goes away? What if it would have worked if I would have kept trying? Like, for one, that's not logical really. But that's a fear-based mentality. That's not also trusting in the universe that it'll help take care of it for you. It's also thinking that you know better than what could possibly come in your life that you couldn't even imagine. But it's also saying that I have such a lack mentality that I believe that this thing or person is the only thing that could bring me happiness or bring me whatever it is I'm searching for. And I know better myself to know that only this can give me what I want. That is your ego. That is fear. That is a lack mentality. A mentality of thinking there is not enough in this universe to go around and that you will not be provided for. It also is a perception thing. Are you looking at and grateful for the blessings you currently have, even if it's merely just the fact that you woke up this morning and that you're breathing and that you're able to make a different choice, or that you're able to help somebody, or that you're able to walk down the street because your legs still work, or that you can go to the bathroom and not have a colostomy bag. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I hope you get what I'm saying. To be thankful for those little things in life instead of taking them for granted because you want something you don't have. And having gratitude for what you do. And knowing that that gratitude is what brings you everything you want. I'll just be happier when this happens. I'll do the work or change when this happens. I just need this to happen first for this to happen. Instead of realizing that maybe that's the wrong perception you had. Maybe it's that you just need to have that happen. And all of a sudden your perspective changes. And then you either can bring in what you really wanted, or you realize, wow, I had it all along. Or maybe I didn't even want that. Sometimes you want things because you're in a fear-based mentality. And sometimes that's what people or situations come to show you. Is to show you what you don't want. Or to show you who you really are. Or to show you what you want. Or to show you what you have. And you really have the choice to decide whether or not you want to try something new and listen to your intuition and your higher self, or whether or not you need those lessons. It's almost like being granted at this moment, or being given a choice and being told of saying, this fly is annoying me. Of saying that this is an opportunity in your life where you have a choice for once to choose the lesson or your intuition and your higher self. This is weird how this light is all showing on me. And if you choose to stay in a fear-based mode or not learn, then you're going to get the lesson. And I think people harp a lot on the lesson. And yes, you want to see the lesson because you don't want to repeat it. But lessons are only there. I'm not saying this in a good or bad way because it's both. But lessons are there when we choose not to see something. And I know that's like a duh kind of thing to say. But if there's a way that you can work around it, like avoiding the tower, and have gotten it or learned it because you chose to go the easier way, the less resistant way, and listen to your intuition or your higher self, then you can still get that lesson without it being painful and without it being that like legit karmic lesson where you're just like, you know, and you're just like, oh, and that thought comes and it gets integrated. It's just how resistant are you going to be on how hard does it have to really just slap you in the face to how much does it have to slap you in the face in order to ingrain that lesson, that thought within? I mean, because if you really think about it, people get like thoughts all the time. Their intuition is constantly talking to them. They just choose to ignore it because they're either not paying attention to it. They don't know what it is. They just think it's a thought and that's it and it goes. Or it doesn't align with what they want, their ego wants, and their blocks and their fears. Which is funny because a lot of times people allow their thoughts to define who they are and they don't like that. But yet they let the ones that are not as good for them a lot of times define who they are, but they disregard the intuitive thoughts that come along and they never take that as who they are. It's really weird, actually. I never thought about that before. Maybe you can switch that once you see that part like of your mind. Like I said, once you could see that veil and really see that to where you're just like, you know? I mean, that's an interesting thought if you think about it. A lot of people allow their thoughts to define them. And that's one thing they have to learn in their evolutionary process, whatever, is that their thoughts do not define who they are. But yet those thoughts are usually more like negative ones. I mean, sometimes not. I mean, it could be like your structure of a family and you've got to break through all that, and societal, patterns and what's right, what's wrong. You got to be married by this age and have kids and have a 9-to-5 job and the white picket fence and, Miss Susie Homemaker making meatloaf. Like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Like, they could be good or bad, but why do we let those thoughts define who we are? But yet we choose not to let the other thoughts define who we are, which is the ones about, you could really write a good book with a lot of these thoughts in your head. Or, even addicts. I've learned that people who have addictions, which actually is like most people in this world, like, let's get real. It's just whether or not your addiction is societally accepted by people and whether or not it is more obvious that it destroys your life. So, but I found that most people who are addicts are actually some of your most creative, intelligent, and emotionally sensitive and spiritually sensitive people. They just have not learned how to harness or create an outlet for it yet. And they don't know what it is, and they feel like something's wrong with them or something's different. And sometimes that's just themselves, and sometimes it's because of the way society has taught them or treated them growing up. It's like being born into a world that's sick and judging yourself based on that. But it's like that person aiming to look at their qualities that make them an addict as negative or something to hide or be ashamed of, instead of looking at it and saying, look at the qualities of most addicts. They're highly resourceful, they're intelligent, they normally can feel a lot, which it does hurt, but they've got to learn to process through that. But they're very creative, and they have a lot of energy a lot of times. Like, there's a lot of those abilities that they choose to let it define them in a bad way instead of a good way. Or instead of letting those different thoughts define you, like, oh, I'm different, I'm not like everybody else. And instead of putting that in the thing of it defines you in something's wrong with you, letting that part come up and just, I'm different and I'm not like anybody else. Which means you can do some amazing things and nobody else is like you. Even if you're doing something somebody else is doing, they can't do it like you. Or you're sitting there taking care of kids, and that thought comes in your head that's like, I've got so many thoughts coming through my head that are just intelligent. I could really start a home-based business and still take care of my kids. No, that's silly. And then it goes right out your mind as soon as it comes in, and then you go do something. I mean, really think about it. How many times do thoughts come in your head and you let them go? And you see them as not possible, not a reality, or even that it would be too much work. When really, if you think about it, why isn't it possible? Why couldn't it be a reality? And why are you not willing to do that work that would make your heart sing, but you're willing to do all this other work that tears you apart over time? Where do you want to invest your time? Are you willing to just bear through it and rip that Band-Aid off for a minute or for a little bit in order to let something grow or let something heal? Or are you going to try to just covering it up with a Band-Aid or act like it's not there, just keep doing something that so many years from now you're going to have to deal with anyways? It's going to hurt a whole lot worse, or you're going to check out and have to repeat this cycle. Stop letting your mind define what thoughts define you. Really, thoughts don't define us at all. But if you're going to let your mind trick you into telling yourself that thoughts define who you are, then at least pick the good thoughts to let them define who you are. And if you're not, then you need to ask yourself, why not? And if you can't figure out why not, and you've reflected on it long enough, then just start to go with the new thoughts and start to do them and push yourself and grow and see what comes up. Because that's the thing too, if you don't do this, you won't even have what you want, even if it's right under your nose. Because you're always going to be stuck in that illusion of waiting and trying to get and still trying to work and wanting what's on the other side. And it's never there. And even when it comes, it's still not there. Your mind will just play such tricks on you. You won't even know you have what you wanted if it's right under your nose. And what you will end up finding, like what I'm end up finding, is that I will finally be meeting me. I realize when I look back, and I know I have more to go, but over what I've went through and the last year and a half, I mean, it's been going on a little bit longer, but the main part of the last year and a half, 2 years of my awakening, I realized that what was so fearful, and all that stuff that was coming up, that was me. That was me meeting me. And I just didn't know that. I thought it was something I had to fight off, or I had to fight and get through. And I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's just meeting that part of yourself and seeing it and acknowledging it and just moving forward anyways. Because if you don't know those parts of you are inside of you and running you and actually playing a larger part because they're a main part of your subconscious, then you're not going to know what is playing a huge portion of your life. It's like, again, playing a chess game and you don't know what half your pawns are. Or you don't know what they mean or what moves they are or which ones are stronger than others. You're not going to be able to play that game properly. And it's like the same as the game in life. I realized that I was meeting me. I was meeting that part of me that I didn't know was there, or I wasn't willing to look at, or that I had never met before. And being able to truly see me and not run from it, not distract myself from it, and not go in a fearful way. Because what is that telling yourself too? What is that telling yourself if you're constantly trying to distract yourself or numb yourself out from another part of you that's coming up trying to show you something? And on top of that, if you're in that vibration, guess what situations or people you're going to be attracting to you? The ones who don't want to see who they really are and who aren't presenting who they really are. So don't get mad at those people when they're mirroring that to you. And don't get mad that those people aren't willing to change when you're not either. Don't get mad that they're not willing to see who they are and work on their issues when you're not either. And don't choose to play victim about it. Because they're mirroring you. So, This is another part of your journey that is really going to show you some stuff, maybe a cause of perspective difference, or an awakening, or at the very least help you to meet more yourself. So when those things come up, don't be so scared of them, because it's just like meeting a part of yourself. It is you. And when that part comes up, you want to see it and acknowledge it and love it and have compassion for it and hold it. Not shame it or run from it or try to banish it or try to stuff it back down or ignore it, because it's part of you. And if you can look at it and allow them to meet and allow them to integrate, you will then be able to have all those tools in navigating this world. But comfort that part. Do it for yourself. If you have someone loving around you who can, comfort you during it, that's great. But really, this is a part about comforting yourself. Seeing those parts that came up. Like, I had a part, this is a little whatever, but I'm going to say it just to show you. I don't even know if anyone's going to get anything from it, but it's a little weird, a little awkward, but not really. I think you'll get the point. I was sitting on my husband's lap, facing forward, like we were facing each other, when he was sitting in his computer chair. And we were just sitting there talking and laughing or whatever. And he was watching something on his computer too. And I ended up laying down, like kind of, like, my legs were like over him, and I just laid down on his chest. And I was like, had my head turned while I was watching what he was watching on the computer too. And I realized after a while that he was kind of like rocking like this, just going back and forth. And I just like kind of noticed it, and I was like, I don't know, this thought just came in my head where it was like a father, with his daughter on her, and he was just rocking her, like how they would say. My dad had never done that, so like our relationship was not like that. It was like, we were close in some ways, but not in a touchy-feely way. It was very, when there was touching, it was weird or awkward, not in a bad way, but I just wasn't around my dad that much, so it was like that. And so, which you don't have to not be around. Some dads are just like that too. Even if they're around their kids all the time, they have that hard time relating with their kids like that. But either way, we didn't. And so I realized that as he was doing it, after a while, I started being like, wow, this is kind of like, it just came to my mind, that thought. And at first, the part started to come up where it started getting kind of nervous, kind of like either this is weird or, this is a level of vulnerability. I don't know. It started to present itself. It made me slightly uncomfortable, and I was like, and I just chose to kind of ignore it and just feel into it, feel what does that feel like? Because considering the fact the thought came up, something about me was wanting to feel that. So I just felt into it and laid into it and just kind of like, okay, well, let's rock with it. Let's do it. And I know that's not what he was thinking, or maybe he was subconsciously. I don't know, as far as just a protector thing. And so I just sat there and like kind of felt it, and I was like, oh, so this is what this feels like. Kind of nice, actually. And I just enjoyed it. And it was a very healing moment. It was really cool. I told him about it during it and after, and we kind of laughed about it or whatever. But I mean, a moment like that, where those parts of you are coming up and you see them. So, but back to some of the other stuff I was saying. This is a time about leaving some things behind and making room for new. And because you can't say to the universe, like, I'm done with this lesson, I want to move forward, even if I don't fully know what it is, but yet you keep doing the same things that are holding you back. And sometimes it's not going to give you those new blessings or those new responsibilities if it doesn't know if you can handle them. You need to show you can handle it. And how you can handle it is by roughing it. And I don't mean it, not everything has to be rough, but by saying, like, you know what, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to do this, even if I don't know what's going to come from it. Even if it hurts, the stuff I'm going to have to go through in order to let some of this go or see the other parts of myself. Because that shows the responsible side of yourself, and that shows the side of yourself that you're willing to take initiative to grow. And so when you show that, that's when you attract things to you that says, okay, she's really ready because she's doing this work, she's taking responsibility, and she's making this sacrifice to show she's ready. She's ready to grow. We're going to give her that stuff that's going to help her grow. And that's kind of what you're saying. Because some of the stuff, you know, with the way it is now, maybe that'll grow on its own in the future. That's not for you to worry about. The way it is now, it can't mix with what you're asking, the lessons you're trying to get. These blessings, gifts, and lessons don't match these blessings, gifts, and lessons. This vibration does not match this vibration. You cannot walk to this vibration carrying this vibration. It doesn't work. You've got to let it go. And know that you will be taken care of. Your needs and your emotional fulfillments will be met. It also depends on your perception, but they will be met. And to trust that that other situation or person will be as it's supposed to. It will either come back or you will have something else that is something you couldn't even imagine. Or maybe that situation even in a way you couldn't imagine. Just releasing it. Just release it. That's the thing. I mean, and this could apply to anything. This could be a person, a situation, a job, a career, a creative venture, a whatever it is. Changing your clothing, your image, exercising, public speaking, your whole life, who you are, who you present, whatever it is. You can't ask for one thing that's something different and try to keep everything else there. You've got to let at least one, some, or all of it go. You'll know. You'll know what that is. And if you want to stay in that fear-based mentality that you'll never find something that made you feel like you thought that did at one time, or that it gives you that same security that the thing does, then you're not willing to go into the new world. You're not ready to go into the new vibration. And you're just going to stay on your hamster wheel. And as long as you are, you might as well gain that perspective. Well, this is what I like and I'm okay with it. But if you're not okay with it and you're ready to get real with yourself and you're ready to do that work to push yourself, then align yourself with that. Start doing the work before you even have the aha moment to let it know I'm ready. It's like going to that basketball coach, you know, and him being like, no, I don't think you're going to work enough for it. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I need someone who's really willing to work hard, and from what I've seen of you, you've been slacking. And it's kind of like that person for like months and months and months. They're in that gym every day practicing their skills, and they're playing basketball and doing all this stuff. Like, they're already on the team. Like, they're already doing the stuff. They're already doing everything, even though they're not. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting from this. Is that you're willing to walk that journey and you're doing your best to start it. Even though you don't even know what the lesson, blessing, gifts, or any of that is yet. But you're willing to do it and sacrifice just to show that you're ready. And if you're not, it'll pop you back and do your thing. And if you are, you'll be rewarded. Because maybe that lesson was so big and where you're going is so significant and it's such a responsibility that the universe really needs to be shown that you're sure and that you're ready and that you're willing to do the work and sacrifice for what it's ready to bring to you. Which means you need to start it first. Because as long as you're going to be having habits and you're going to be going on patterns and doing things, you might as well make them healthy. Like, what most people end up doing is they shut off the intuitive part of themselves because they're scared to do it or they don't think it's possible. So they don't do that. But then their soul becomes so restless and bored. Actually, now that I think about it, it's exactly like the choice I just said before. You have the choice to choose between your intuition or the karmic lesson. That's exactly it. When you get those thoughts and you push them out and your intuition is guiding you and you push them away because it doesn't seem real, or you're too stuck on your stuff, or you're being stubborn, or you don't want to work on it and change, or you don't see it, whatever it is that you don't do it, your soul becomes so bored and so yearning for that growth and that expansion. But it's in a way rebelling all the intuition thoughts that are coming, that you end up rebelling anyways by doing all those habits and patterns that keep you stuck. You're rebelling. You're making a habit anyways. The reason you're rebelling, because you can use rebellious nature or energies as a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, what do you use it for? Do you use it to hinder you, or do you use it to make a difference in this world? And instead of listening to your intuition and using your rebellious nature to make a difference in your life and grow and expand and in this world, you're using it for your habits that are keeping you stuck. So it's literally like the choice I was saying earlier. You chose not to listen to your intuition, whether you know that's what it is or not. Now you do. And you're like, all right, well, here's your karmic lesson then. And you get stuck on that hamster wheel until you either A, start to listen to your intuition, and or B, you decide, even if you haven't learned yet what your intuition is, or to listen to it, or that's what you're doing, you learn to do something different and you take a chance anyways, because what you were doing is so not working for you anymore, it's not even funny. And you've already spent enough time reflecting on it, and it's just keeping you even more stuck and on a hamster wheel that looks almost exactly like the one you were already on. And then you get tired of it and you just pop back to the one you were on anyways. And then there you are doing it again. It's your choice whether you use your intuition or you choose the lesson. It's crazy how that came together. Also, the other thing I'd like to say, and I think I'm about to wrap this up, is all those people that you see doing things in life, that they're successful, or they're breaking out, or they've written books, seminars, all that stuff, whatever it is, there's like so many things you can apply to. All those things that are on the other side of the fence that you're looking over and it seems so exciting, but it's not for you. That's not your reality. They're just like you. They just chose to do the work and to see that veil in their mind that is blocking them. To see that veil and their ego as to put it in place and use it where it's there to help them, but to bypass it in the ways that it hinders them. Because it's trying to protect you. Your ego and your mind is there to protect you. But think about it. Sometimes mothers really try to protect their children, but out of fear, they hinder them. And they actually stunt their children from growing. And this is for anybody, fathers can do or whatever. I'm using this as an example. And it's the same thing your mind and your ego is doing to you. There are times that it thinks it's protecting you for survival, and it's acting out of fear, or your ego telling you you're not good enough. So then that way it doesn't get hurt if something doesn't go exactly its way, instead of seeing sometimes when things don't go our way, they're blessings, or they're lessons to change your direction and get you more where you want to go, or somewhere better. It's not only trying to protect you, but it's trying to protect itself. And I mean, let's face it, when we were back in the olden days and we were all in the wild, if you did risky things, it was a matter of life or death. So your mind is still acting in that survival of the fittest mode, where it's like, you know, you don't want to take risks because that means you die. You don't want to take risks because that means we don't eat tonight. That means death. It literally meant life or death. And times aren't those ways anymore. It's evolving. It's been evolving. But we've been staying stuck. Let your mind evolve. Or stay stuck. It's your choice. I think that's it. I have some other things I want to do videos on, but I'm going to separate them. Also, I do have one more thing I'd like to go on. One thing that I believe really creates karma are things like this, though. Whether it's you between a person, a situation, your own life lessons, anything like that. It's basically you being at peace with what you're doing and seeing beyond it. If you pass and you go to the other side and you look back and you're like, well, damn, I should have done that. And you have resentments about it that you didn't see it and learn it, you're coming back to do the same thing. So that could be about people, jobs. Sometimes, too, there's people out there that, you know, they really feel connections to each other. Their egos may kind of, you know, not want to work with each other. It's really hard to work past certain things and blocks, especially if one tries and the other doesn't. That's perception, too, though. Perspective, whatever. But either way, you know, there's some people that their souls can feel each other and they know and they yearn, even if it's just for a lesson, but their egos try to resist it and they get caught in karmic multiple lifetime patterns. And that's not something to get caught up on, like, you know, do your thing, because maybe if you learn the lesson, you can null that contract and they can write a contract with somebody else and you evolve. But either way, that's exactly how karma is made, where you don't see outside of it. And I don't want to say that even more. We were like, that's even more why I have to learn the lesson. No. It's to break out of your patterns. If you can't figure it out, just break out of whatever you're doing and do something different. It'll show it to you. And just you even setting that intention that you're trying to do something different, the universe is going to work with you. It's like that kid who went and acted like he was already on the team for months and months and months until his coach saw him and was like, well, all right. You've been doing it. We might as well level you up. I don't know of an actual time that happened. I'm sure it happened somewhere. But, you know, so... And it's being okay with it. And sometimes even the lesson isn't even just like like a lesson. Sometimes it's just learning gratitude and release and surrender. So it's going to be different. I can't say it's like one thing because everybody's situation is different. But I just had a bunch of things that were coming in today. And, you know, it just keeps coming and coming. Like, it just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping today. So I could sit here with like a 5-hour video, but I'm not going to because I know today's actually the Taurus full moon, but I pulled a spread that was the Taurus full moon in the Scorpio season. So I'm going to do that real quick, then finish the other Aquarius video because I'm going to try to make this goal where I finish all the videos within this month, which I've never been able to do since starting this. So I'm really working on that goal this month. So I've got some things to do, and I still got to go for my walk. I was going to go for my walk, like I got ready for it, But I didn't want to lose all this, so I was like, I'm gonna go do the video real quick. So yeah, listen to your intuition. Just know your intuition is very curious and childlike. It will never bully you. It will never make you feel bad. And then, of course, you have your emotions that are that very heart, you're feeling things. And then you have your patterns. Your patterns will bully you. They will come from a place of not trusting and not knowing. It'll be more of this bullying pull. Like you've got to do something or else. I mean, sometimes your intuition could be that way, but not most of the time. Most of the time your intuition is very light, childlike, trusting, almost like a whisper, especially when you're not used to listening to it. But it won't bully you. Like it might tune you into your emotions where you realize something makes you feel good or bad. But usually when you're in your patterns, it's that type of attachment pull, like thing. And you could feel yourself trying to run, but something's pulling you back. Because an intuition will never, I mean, unless it's life or death, it won't tell you to run. It'll either tell you to feel it out or to tell you to sit and listen or something like that. I can't describe it all right now, and it's a little complicated, so I'm not going to get too much into this because I'd like to do its own video. But they're very different of feelings. Usually, for the most part, the ones that put you in a fearful mode or like you're going to lose out is going to be patterns and habits and addictions or codependencies. And the ones that make you go, I did not plan that. It's usually your intuition. So anyways, I love you guys. This is long enough. I hope this helps somebody. I hope I said this in the right way, because as I'm thinking it, it's just like boop, 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 boop. And you know, it makes so much more sense to me because I can see it in my head and just hits. So I hope I verbalized it right. I hope this helps somebody. I do plan on doing more videos kind of like this and a little bit more on the intuition versus emotions and patterns. And then also the mind gateway between emotions, intuition, higher self, and your conscious and your subconscious. I do want to do a little bit more deeper videos on that. But I hope this really helps you. I love you guys. I hope you guys are having a pretty decent, either smooth or very evolving Taurus full moon. And like, share, comment, subscribe, maybe even donate. Or as somebody said that I like these words, leave a tip if something about this helped you. Especially since I'm really saving up for something special that's coming up this next summer, or starting this next summer. And I'm going to do a video on that too. That will be for not only further healing myself, but it'll give me, help me with the ability to further help you guys and other people. So this is the next part of my evolution. So any of these monies for donations, again, I'm going to do this own video on its own and I'll explain all this. Services, anything like that, all that money is going towards me saving up for that, for starting next summer. But all the information is below on the different types of services I do right now. Or if there's anything else you need help with, email me. I'll let you know if I can help you with it. If not, I'll be honest and let you know if I can't. If I can't, a lot of times my husband can, which I plan on probably bringing him on my channel sometimes, which I'm also going to do a separate video on this, but I might do a few like questions and answers videos, and I might even do it where we have like live sessions. To where, you know, a lot of ways he thinks like I do, but he brings the male perspective. So, that's really good and very healing, especially for whether it's either females wanting to see things from a male perspective, or if there is any males watching, which I know I have a few, he in some ways can relate better than I can in some ways. Why did I just bring him up? Oh, so if I can't, my husband probably can, or I might know somebody else who can. My network is growing bigger and bigger every day. So, but either way, I'll let you know and be honest about it. So there may be even something I don't think to list off there that I can do or help you with. So send me an email if you need help with it. If not, look in the description box below on all these videos. This is where the information is about my PayPal info, my email, my services, the prices, what I do, all of that. And like I said, I've got quite some videos coming that will explain the stuff about the donation, the questions and answers, live session, you know, blah, 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 blah. So like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. Please like this video too, not only in appreciation for me doing it, but also I think this is a really good message for a lot of people, and I'd really like to get this message out. And when you guys like, it really helps with that. Comment also and let me know what you guys think, or any questions or comments or any of that good stuff. And please check out the description box below. Like, it's amazing how many people find my email in that, but they don't find the other information. But it's all good. And thank you again. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And I am truly honored that you guys are walking this journey with me as I am walking mine. Is that it? I believe so. I love you guys. I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.